Welcome to a very, very special show today. It's BFBS Radio making history today. We're live from St James's Palace in London. We are on royal soil. We're walking in the footsteps of kings and queens, and we're joined by radio stations from all across the world. We're listening on UK DAB. We're all across the country today. We're UK bases are joining us as well today, which is fantastic. So in Aldershot, in Blandford, Brides Norton, Catterick, Colchester, Salisbury Plain, also in Scotland as well, and overseas in Germany, Cyprus, Gibraltar, the Falklands, Brunei, and Northern Ireland. We've got a very special show today. We've been given exclusive behind-the-scenes access to St James's Palace. Throughout the show today, we're trying to give you a sense of what life is like at St James's Palace, which is home to several members of the royal family and their household officers and staff. And no self-respecting royal family or Russian oligarch would be without my next guest, and that is a butler. And last week I went along to Blenheim Palace to talk to Grant Harrold, who used to work as a royal butler at St James's Palace and now runs the Royal School of Butlers in Oxfordshire. And Grant is going to give me some pointers about royal etiquette so I don't let myself down at the palace. And he's right next to me. Morning, Grant.
Good morning, Richard.
Now, what an amazing place to live. Who lives here now?
It's home of the 12th Duke of Marlborough and his family.
And I bet he didn't get it on Homes Under the Hammer. How did he get it?
No, he didn't. He inherited it, which is quite sad, obviously. He inherited it from his father about a year and a half ago.
How did it become a Marlborough house?
It's been a palace for about over 300 years, and it was the first Duke of Marlborough who fought a battle at Blenheim, and as his reward he was gifted this palace, which I don't think it was completed actually before he sadly died, so he didn't actually see it finished.
So it was a kind of do-it-upper.
Well, I suppose you could say that it was a bit of that.
What's the biggest butlering mistake you've made? You know, something like giving the Earl of Bedford the wrong snail fork or something like that.
I think one of the biggest mistakes I probably would have made was when I was looking after a guest, and part of my duties is packing and unpacking suitcases, and I was packing up this suitcase for this lady, and I managed to pack the actual bedspread in with the rest of the clothes, and I didn't think anything of it because I just assumed it was that she had brought it with her. The way it was folded in the bed, it looked like
you thought she wanted to take it?
So I put it in her case, and I think it was a couple of days later when Lady Tavistock actually mentioned to me that it'd be greatly appreciated if I didn't keep packing up the the bedspreads, which is, you know, it was very embarrassing. She saw the funny side of it, but I was mortified that I'd gone and given something away to somebody. But
I like the way that in 19 years that's the worst mistake you've made.
Yes, definitely. I would say that was my faux pas of the last almost 20 years.
Yours is a royal school of butlers. Does that actually mean you're sanctioned by the royal family?
Basically, we work with the royal. There's a royal princess who is a niece of the Queen. She teamed up with myself just over about 2 years ago, and we started developing these butler courses, and we started training royal butlers as they're kind of trained to her kind of standard, and then she obviously issues a certificate at the end of the course.
Who were you working for at St James's?
I worked with Prince of Wales, Dutch Cornwall, and occasionally for Princes William and Harry as well.
And what were your duties?
The duties of a butler is very much the same across all royal homes or any home. It can be from laying tables to looking after the individuals to answering the telephones, looking after the guests, almost acting as a host sometimes for the host themselves, because obviously royals and aristocracy can be quite busy, and you sometimes need somebody to kind of step into their shoes and look after their guests, and that's a very important part of a butler's duty.
What makes a good butler?
Well, for me it's important for loyalty, discretion, positive attitude, and to be able to you must be determined to get a job done. You can't kind of go into something half-hearted. If you start something, you have to see it through. But I think the loyalty and discretion are really important, and they're important to employers as well.
During your time as a member of the royal household, you must have met the Queen. What's the Queen like?
She's lovely. She's got a fantastic sense of humour. I was very lucky, obviously, to have met her on many an occasion, but the very first time I met her, I was actually introduced to her by the Prince of Wales, and that was quite one of those surreal moments where you've got the Prince of Wales introducing you to the Queen.
Can you remember any of the conversations you had?
Yes, there's a couple of conversations. In fact, one of the funniest was when she realised that I think she knew, but she hadn't really put two and two together when she worked out that my brother also worked for her. So I was working for the Prince of Wales, and my brother, we were at this event, and my brother was with the Queen, and they were walking. She was walking down this receiving line, and my brother said, "Oh, this is my brother," and she said, "Oh, gosh, your brothers," and it was like the pin dropped, and it was quite a funny moment.
Do you find it hard to stop being a butler? You know, when you get home.
Yes. I'm terrible for that. In fact, when I'm butlering, which I don't do much of now, I kind of more the training's what I tend to do. But when I was butlering, it was almost as if I never stopped. Even when I'm at home, I'd still be relaying fires, I'd be plumping cushions, I'd be making sure that the guests were looked after, and I'm still like that. Even to this day, people will come to my home, and I'll be making sure that they're looked after the same way they would be looked after at Blenheim Palace.
And who has butlers nowadays?
All sorts of people. You have the aristocracy who very much thankfully still have the butlers and the staff, obviously the royal family, and then you have the kind of, I'll say new money, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It is people that have come into money, or that could be lottery winners, it could be Europeans that are coming into the country, and they want the Britishness. So, and part of that's to have your butler.
What does a top butler earn?
Again, it depends where you go, it depends who you work for.
Top butler.
I would say that if you went to work, let's say you went to work for an Arabian prince or somewhere in Saudi Arabia or something, you could be potentially looking at, I don't know, 80, 90,000.
Shut the front door. Seriously?
Yes.
That much money?
Yeah. You can, but don't forget, you're working 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day. You don't have any kind of life. You might get some time off. If you're prepared to do that, then there's no reason why you won't get paid that, and you're probably quite happy at the end of doing it for a couple of years. You could probably go off and set up your own little bed and breakfast or something.
BFBS. Richard Hatch, live from St James's Palace, London.
It's very nice to have your company today. We are live from St James's Palace, the senior palace of the sovereign, and Grant Harrold, the former royal butler who's based out of Blenheim Palace, is going to be back a little bit later on. He's done a very funny thing. We've done kind of butlering for dummies, me being the dummy, obviously. But those videos, those little shorts we made, I think it's called Butler School. They were all on facebook.com/BFBS Radio. And coming up in a little bit, you can see him doing some butlering tips with me. I think it's shoes. He's teaching me how to polish shoes. Also, how to pack a suitcase. And, of course, negotiating what I'm going to call the nibble minefield, what nibbles you can serve to royalty. All of that coming up very soon here on BFBS. To brush up on my royal etiquette, I've come to Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire to get some expert tips from a former royal butler. It's Grant Harrold who runs his butler school from here. Good morning, Grant.
Good morning, Richard.
Now, I've just noticed we are actually in the heart of Blenheim Palace, and we're actually in the room that Winston Churchill was born in. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, it's correct. This is the actual room where it was obviously in the 19th century, and there was a ball taking place here, and his parents were obviously in attendance, and then she went into labour, and this was actually one of the dressing rooms for the ladies, and they very quickly turned it into, as you see, into a bedroom, a makeshift bedroom for the birth.
Now, we're going to go on to some kind of etiquette and butlering tips very soon, but I've just noticed a terrifying clump of hair on the bedstead. What's all that about?
That's actually Winston Churchill's lockets. They cut it off, obviously, when he was a small child, and they framed it, and it's now on the end of the bed.
See, that's funny, isn't it? Every time I've seen a picture of Winston Churchill, he's never got any hair, and that's obviously why his mum just cut it all off when he was 5, which is great. Now, you're going to teach us how to polish shoes. Tell us how we polish shoes, because, I mean, this is something, of course, the military know loads and loads about, but there is a royal way, there is a butler way to do it. Tell us.
There is a royal way, but what's interesting, the way that I was shown was the military way, because some of the butlers that I've worked with are ex-military. So, and they taught me spit and polish, which is a method that I use all the time, and I know it works, and you get a fantastic shine. So obviously I've got the shoe polish, and I don't really tend to use brushes, because what I was taught, that brushes can, especially with some leather, it can scratch,
right,
and you don't obviously want to scratch you, so it's best just to use I use a couple of old dusters. I have one for putting on, one for taking off, and again with the shoe polish, as disgusting as it might sound, I spit into the actual polish. If you don't want to do spit and polish, then you can actually use some warm water, and when you open the actual lid of the polish, put the warm water in the other side of the tin, and then just dab it onto the cloth from there.
Okay, and who have you polished shoes for?
Oh, I polish shoes for, as you can imagine, different members of the royal family. For obviously the Dukes of Bedford, for any kind of guests I've looked after over the years. So, I mean, I've probably polished shoes of some of the greatest and most famous people in the land.
Let's stop talking about it. Let's get on with doing it. Let me watch you do what you're doing.
So I've got the tin here, so if you forgive me, I'm just going to...
It's charming.
Yeah, I know. That's why we do it in private normally.
Okay, now so you've done that. So you're wiping the saliva around in the polish, and now you're going to put on the shoe.
And then I'm just going to, as you can see, it's just circular motions. When you're doing the actual heel of the shoe, again, it's the same. You can use a brush, but you've got to be careful, because what you don't want to do is, again, is start scratching the base of the shoe, so you're having to do it in a careful manner. When you're doing the shoe, sometimes you can even use a cotton bud to get into the hard to reach places.
Okay, so now this is actually the bed that Winston Churchill was born in, and you've laid out your clothes on it.
Yes.
And it looks like you're using tissue paper. Why would you use tissue paper?
Well, there's many different reasons that people have used tissue paper over the years, obviously for the protection of clothes, to stop them from creasing. The reality is today a lot of people don't use it because people don't have the time. They'll just want to get things in a suitcase, get it packed, that's it done. When I'm packing for guests or employers, I use tissue paper for the simple reason of it's not so much to stop the creases. For me, it's for order. It's to kind of make everything have its place. When it comes to unpacking it, as you would see, there'll be different layers, and each layer has got the right thing. So say the bottom layer is going to have the jumpers, the layer above is going to have the trousers, the one above is going to have the t-shirts.
Do you put the heavy stuff on the bottom, shoes and things?
Yeah, shoes first, then jumpers, then you put the trousers, then you're going to do something very light like the t-shirts, which aren't going to crush too badly. The dress shirts, or shirts, I will then put near the top, because even though they're going to get slightly creased, you don't want those at the bottom because they will easily crease. And then finally, suits or jackets on the very top.
Okay, let me throw you a curveball here. Gloves, where would you put gloves?
Gloves, I would put them with the shoes. So you've got the shoes, and then that's where you're also going to have your underwear and your socks and any belts. You can also put belts around the outside of the case, if that makes sense. You kind of line it round, but I tend to roll them up and just place them next to the shoes. And again, gloves would go in that area with handkerchiefs.
Okay, let's move on to the negotiating what I'm going to call the nibble minefield. What nibbles can you serve to the royal family? What I'm going to do, we'll do this in a kind of quick fire way, okay? So I just want you to say yes or no after I've mentioned the nibble. Okay, Bombay mix.
No.
Cheesy puffs.
No.
Coconut macaroon, single one.
No.
Monster munch.
No.
What if you bite the edges off?
No.
Salt and vinegar crisps.
No.
Monkey nuts. Shelled.
Okay.
Cashews.
Yes.
And finally, mini cheddars. Say yes.
You could, yes, that's fair. I'd normally go for cheese twists or something, but okay, mini cheddars.
Good.
You can just maybe get in with that one.
Good. I'm happy with that. Thank you very much.
Richard Hatch, live from St James's Palace, London, BFBS.